committee meeting to order while we've got a quorum, so go right on leave. Mr. Stale, Council Stale, will you say the invocation for us, please?
Rise, please. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you, Lord, for this beautiful spring day, summer day coming. Lord, be with us as we go through our meetings today. Pray for knowledge, pray for wisdom, and give us all instructions on how to perform today, and bless everybody, be with us through the day. Thank you. Amen.
Thank you. Shall I do the roll, please?
Harley Buzzard.
Here.
Chris Soap. Bill Anglin.
Here.
Bill John Baker.
Here.
Jack Baker.
Here.
Julia Coates. Bradley Cobb. Joe Crittenden.
Here.
Jody Fishinghawk. Here. Meredith Fraley. Janelle Fulbright. Here. Don Garvin. China Glory Jordan.
Present.
Curtis Snell.
Here.
David Thornton.
Present.
Kara Callan Watts. We do have a quorum.
Okay, Ms. Fishinghawk.
Yes, I'd like to amend the agenda to include a discussion, possible action on individual sewer and water and handicap accessibility being out of money.
I have a motion. Do I hear a second to that motion?
I second it.
Motion's been made and seconded to add to the agenda the water and sewer and the handicap accessibility funding. Any discussion on this resolution? For this amended resolution? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Okay, Shelley, we'll add that as item 6. Okay, do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of the May 11th regular session? Move to second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Thank you. I want to thank the staff people for coming out, and Norma, I want to, as customary, to let you come up and give us any information that you may have omitted or want to put into the minutes, but human services.
Okay, you all have my report. I asked if there were any questions about it.
Well, one thing I want to say, Norma, is I want to congratulate you on the collections on this child support. I see a dramatic increase in this last quarter, and it looks like at the end of the year that it's going to be done. I know a lot of times people get separated and they have children and they don't seem to want to support the children, but I think if we bring these children to the world, we need to support them. So I applaud your effort for helping these families that need that support, and they certainly need it in this time of day. So I think you've done a good job on increasing that out. So.
Well, we're very excited about our new director, Kara Whitworth. She brings a great deal of experience and knowledge, and I actually think people do want to support their children. I think that the way that the state has approached folks in the past has been so punitive that it's scared people off. We're trying to change the way that we deal with these families to give them opportunities. And it's a slow process. We're still a very young program, but we do have a plan in place to try to lift those people up and help bring more income into their families in different ways. So far, it's worked pretty well.
That's good. I'm applauding for it. Ms. Fishinghawk, do you have anything?
Yeah. Norm, can you talk to me about the clothing vouchers going down from 125 to 100?
Our 500K budget, we have to cover as many children as we can. And basically at $125 per child, we can cover 4,000 with that amount. If we go to 100, which is where we've been, we've vacillated between 75 to 125 over the, I think, the 5 years we've been doing this. And so we did not feel like 100 was that punitive, but it also allows us to serve another 1,000 children with that amount. So that's a big reason. We'll really also be able to serve about 5,300, and I think Dallas told me this morning 22, with the reimbursement we get from Stage, who returns about 10% to us. that will also allow us to have some administrative expenses. We've had to shoulder the administrative expenses every year out of Human Services, which we really didn't have. So this year we really needed to take some funds to help produce some of our written materials and the vouchers, which are pretty costly because they're very specific. You have to make sure that you do everything you can to keep them from being counterfeited or tinkered with.
Okay, how many did you serve last year at 125?
Well, we had to come back to the well for that last year, and I think we served Dallas about 6,000?
6,338.
6,338.
You have any more questions on this issue?
And that was just on clothing vouchers. That's not the vouchers you give out through the year for like burnouts or anything like
No, that's just clothing vouchers.
that?
Council Con, you have a question?
Norman, I like the idea for dropping it from 125 to 100 to serve 1,322 more people. But we had 6,388 last year. How many didn't get served last year?
I can't answer that.
Don't have any idea.
I don't really have any idea. I don't know if Dallas has or not.
Did we turn down anybody?
Only because they were ineligible.
Ineligible. Okay, that sounds good.
As far as I know, that's pretty much the answer.
Yeah, that's true. We served everybody who applied and met income eligibility, JSA requirements, and things such as that. No one was turned away.
How more or less would be for, if we're going to raise anything, to raise a 100 and give enough $100 bills to serve this other 1,000 people that we're not going to serve this year?
With all due respect, Counselor, we believe that there was about 15% of the people we served last year who shouldn't have been served. They were over income, they lived outside the JSA, or their students were either not in public schools, they had dropped out, or they were too young to go to public schools. That was a problem we found because we had a lack of training with our people who were taking applications, and we were really overwhelmed with the press of people. This year we've made some steps to solve that problem. We have 131 volunteer application takers. They're going to all be trained before they take a single application. We've firmed up the steps that we take to ensure eligibility, to make sure that those people who were ineligible are not served. And we believe that taking those things into consideration, serving 5,322 people will pretty much solve the problem that we have. We don't think we'll have to turn around or turn away anybody.
Okay, you don't think that after last year that they may increase and still be eligible?
We don't believe so. If more people have lost their jobs and the economic conditions suggest that, then we may have that situation. But we anticipate that we will be pretty close, right on target. Our best estimate right now is we think there'll be 5,340 or so that will be eligible based on the number that applied last year. We have the means to serve 5,322 today, and we believe that number will go up because we're going to save some money. Number one, we got our vouchers printed at cost, so that saved us some money there. We got pins donated from various Cherokee Nation programs. We don't have to buy any supplies. So we reduced a lot of our expenses. Also, the way we're going to distribute vouchers, we're using local volunteers, so there's not mileage for most of the people who are taking applications, and there's no overtime expenses because we're only using them one day and they can place their schedule.
I know that our unemployment rate in our county has gone up, and it's almost 12%. And that's probably the highest in this nation, highest in Oklahoma. And I'm sure we'll have an increase in children that's needy. I feel this way: if we've got a family that have kids that are going to school, the ones that are not going to school still need clothing. And if that family has one going to school and two that's not, I think we ought to help them. And that's the way I feel about it. Anyway, I would be for increasing another 1,000 for another 1,000 students at $100. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Fishman?
I'm kind of confused on what was said because I know he just now said the economy is worse than it is last year. And evidently we're not going to have enough to serve as much as we did last year. And they said they decreased expenses. Tell me, how much did you decrease expenses by getting pins donated? I'm kind of curious.
We decreased expenses. I'm
Right.
sorry, let me make that clear. We don't have to buy any pens, and last year we
And
didn't
how
have to
much
buy
was that?
pens.
That's what I'm asking.
I don't have a dollar amount of the number on the expense.
Who would have a dollar amount?
Well, let me go back. We didn't use any of the voucher money in the past to do this. And it was cutting into other budgets that I had, because I don't have I don't have discretionary funds. And this year, we felt like the expenses from last year that we shouldered, that we felt like we really needed to get some help with that. So some of the money that we got back from stage, we earmarked, and I can't remember how much it was, to say we're going to use this for our operational administrative expenses. Dallas was able to, and he's done a fantastic job all year long, reducing what we had set aside from our projections of what we would need for this year. So this is the first year we've ever taken any money for administrative expenses.
And how much was that?
We plan to look at 1% of the total budget for administrative expenses, which was $5,000, and we're coming in way beneath that. Right now, it's around $2,000.
Okay, so the 1% includes the money coming back from stage, or doesn't?
It doesn't. It was 1% of the amount that was
Oh,
allocated
okay.
by
I'm sorry, I misunderstood that.
that you guys set aside.
Okay, and we set aside 500,000.
500,000.
Okay. I'm curious, so you're all saying that the economy's worse and there's going to be 1,000 people that's not going to get served?
Let me say what we're saying. We're saying that we have a budget of $500,000. We've been told that is the budget this year, and we've done the best we can to cover as many children as we can with that, with a reasonable amount of funds. We could go down to $75 a voucher and serve more children, but you just have to make your best guess that $100 is probably going to buy a pair of shoes, a pair of jeans, a top, maybe some underwear. You can get that for $100 if you shop wisely. And people have been able to do that in the past few years that we've used Stage. So we feel like that's a good number. But we can reduce it and serve more children.
Okay, I'm curious because I know I'm the one that made the motion to up it to $125
Right.
during last budget cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And this year the budget come through and everything was supposed to, in this program, we asked how much was in there. They said, well, we're going to fund it the same amount, blah, blah, blah. So I took it that we was going to keep the 125. I'm curious, who decided to reduce it to 100?
That's a programmatic issue. We sat down with various folks and said, we have this amount of money. Last year, we had to come back and get additional funds. We have been led to believe that this year there aren't any additional funds to come back and ask for because of our budgets. So we have to work with the $500K. So we made decisions based on how much we have and trying to serve as many children as we have. The information that Dallas has given you about the 15%, those are things that a lot of times you don't know until after the fact because, as you all know, people come in on one day, we get as much information as we can, and sometimes we go, oops, we find out that kid really wasn't in school or they were actually over income. It's hard to go take a voucher away from someone after you've given it. But as he said, there's about 15% that after they did an analysis of all the applications that we felt like probably would not have been served had we been able to do a better job, which we're trying this year. We try every year to get better and better. So it falls on us to make these decisions.
Okay. I hate to ask this again, Norma, but what I'm wanting to know is who decided to reduce it from 125 to 100?
I didn't
And you was the only one?
know him.
Okay, who else?
Honestly, Dallas was involved. Other staff that had worked the program. Quite honestly, this was like some time ago, and I don't know if you remember. And it really doesn't matter. We looked at it as a programmatic issue. I make these kind of decisions all the time for programs based on the budgets I have and how many people I'm trying to serve, and in consultation with the people who do this kind of thing all the time.
I realize it really does matter to you,
It
But
does
to
matter
me-
to me. It matters to me greatly. That's why we felt like we made the best decision about serving more children. As I said, if we'd left it at 125, we would have had to cut many children. So, I'm not telling you I always make the best decisions, but it seemed like a reasonable, based on fact and our experience. So I think it was an educated decision.
Councilor Jordan, you have a question?
Norma, it appears from the numbers that you've given us that we probably need to plan for in the neighborhood, I think, of 6,000 children. And that's making the assumption that the 15% may not be totally, this year, be totally out of the range to serve. Because a lot of those folks may have been on the bubble, but with the economy, as Mr. Thornton has said, he's got 12% unemployment in his county. Every county has seen unemployment go up. So I'm thinking the 15% will not materialize as we suspect. If we were in a good economy, I think we could probably plan for it. But in a bad economy, I think probably the folks that might have been on the bubble last year are going to be underneath the line this year. So I'm still thinking that we've got to plan. If we plan for no more than last year, we've still got to plan for 6,000 children. So instead of saying we've got a budget of 500,000, maybe the council needs to be thinking about bumping that budget up 100,000 to be proactive and provide for those children. So when the last 1,000 come in, they're not told we're out of money. Now we should have been proactive on the summer youth program. And instead we were playing catch up. Now we have an opportunity to get ahead of the ball game, put another 100,000 into her budget, and if she doesn't need it, great. We take it back after all this is done. But if she needs it, she's going to need it on the day that she gives those vouchers out, or she can't give the vouchers out. And we'll be turning kids away. Then we'll be sitting here the next month saying, well, some of my people just gave up because they were told there was no more money. So instead of waiting in line to fill out the application, they just went home. And I agree with what Chris said last night. That's not fair. That is just not fair that some of them went home because they were told, hey, there's no money. So this time, let's get ahead of the ball game. We see the need is there. We know it's going to happen. We know these lines are going to be huge. And it appears to me whoever's on the end of the list, whatever county's on the end of the list, may be telling their people there's no money. So it looks at a minimum that we need to drop another 100,000 into this budget to make this program work. And with all due respect to y'all and your figures, I think you're going to see even more than you saw last year. And even as good as you're going to be at weeding out the over-income or the ones that are ineligible, you're still going to probably see you need at least 6,000 vouchers. Well, you can't drop from $100 to $75 towards the tail end. You just won't have the money.
No, and really it's too late for that because we'd have the vouchers printed up.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that is one way you can serve more with the budget that I have.
But then we would have to go back through, we would be going backwards.
Yeah.
And we're already gone backwards almost 25%. We would be going backwards another, well, I guess it'd be 20%. We went backwards 20%. We're going to be going backwards another 20%, plus we have to reprint all the vouchers. It seems logical that we've got to plan for at least what came in last year. Now, if the 15% materializes, great. We've got some money left over. If the 15% don't materialize, you've got that extra 100,000 that you're probably going to need just to meet the needs of what happened last year. I mean, that's just my comments, folks. We either need to get in front of the ball or we're going to be playing catch up again on this program. And the thing that's going to happen is we're going to have a lot of upset families at the end of this program.
Okay. Any more comments? Yes,
I don't know how to do this, but I'd like to make a motion to move to executive finance to try to find money about $100,000 to fund this program.
I'd second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to see if Executive Finance can find an extra $100,000 to fund that. Any discussion? Okay, the motion is to request Executive Finance to see if they can find an extra $100,000 to fund the clothing program. Okay? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
The motion passed. So, Norma, I'm sure Executive Finance will start looking for those dollars to see if we can find an extra $100,000 for you. Okay? Okay. Any announcements, Norma, that you've got?
The only one I have is about our summer cooling. We will be able to have a summer cooling program through LIHEAP. This will only be for the people who are on LIHEAP for this year. As you all know, when you sign up in December, that December time frame, that covers you for that following year. You can't add anyone after that sign-up time. So those people who received winter heating assistance will be eligible automatically for the summer cooling assistance. The letters are going out probably within the next week. I know they're getting them ready now to those elderly and disabled who received LIHEAP. It will tell them that they need to return a bill to us so we can see who their electric company is. This will be electricity only for cooling. And there is a payment matrix, but the average payment will be $250, and it will go to their electric company. I think the letter says it will take about 6 to 8 weeks probably for that to happen, because we'll have to get that back in and cut checks and do all of our checks and balances on that. But we're really happy to be able to do that this year.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Norma. Next on the agenda is Community Services at Charlie. So, Charlie? Good morning, Charlie. We had a report, but as customary, we'd like for you to fill us in on things you may not have got into the report, or some of the committee members may have questions for you. Is there anything that you want to bring forward this time, or?
You've got my report. If you have any questions, and I'm here to answer your questions.
Hey, has everybody had a chance to look at the Community Services report? If there's any questions, I'd like to have those now. Mr. England?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Charlie, I said, well, how are we doing with this Chastity Pepper project up early in here?
I think we're
Bill, what was
doing-
the question? We couldn't hear up here.
I was just asking, one of these self-help projects, Chastity Pepper, I was just trying to find out the status where we're at with
Okay.
From our side, I think we're doing really well. I think from the participants' point is they were really moving along very well in constructing the home, and then slowed down considerably, and we have to try to work with them on their schedule. So other than that, we're doing good.
That's all I need, thanks.
Charlie had a couple of questions, and you could follow this up with an email, but I'd like to have a written report on Bradley Waterline, what the status is on it.
Okay.
Also the Bradley Waterline,
Okay.
also the Ross Acre Waterline.
Yeah. I think they're both moving along pretty good, Harley.
Good, good. And then I think last month that we talked about on the building packages that we were going to probably make some selections in June or July. Is that you still anticipate making more selections on the building packages for the home?
Yeah.
This month?
That's what. Yeah, really. That's sort of an ongoing process.
Okay.
When we're selecting the two. But as they are going through the process, goes to Commerce, and then they also have to review those, and then once they're cleared, then we move along with that.
Okay. And I think Councilor Snell had a question.
Okay. Kurt?
Charlie, what about the leach water line? When is that going to start?
Actually, the materials are being delivered, and they're moving along on that, and they should be. We got to go to another meeting with them, and then from there we pretty well kick that project off, and then that's a 10-mile, the 10-inch line for. Then it goes down to 8, and then 6 and about 7 miles, and then hopefully the self-help will kick in. So it'll probably be maybe fall when the self-help kicks in, but there's several meetings that's going to take place before that. So, but materials are being delivered right now.
Thank you, Charlie.
You bet.
Charlie, I have one more question. I know you've got a lot you've got a lot on your plate, but where are we on the infrastructure for those sites in Stillwell, Adair County, and one in Sequoia County as far as
Redbird.
and I can't remember the other one.
Perfect.
Redbird, we're doing roads and then also building pads, but hardly that ground is different. And David, you know that.
Now, Redbird is down around.
Redbird is Sequoia County.
Okay.
We've been trying to build pads and there, and it's muddy. Right now, this rain's going to hold us back another 2 weeks. It's a very different type of soil there. And I think David can attest to that. But we're doing what we can, and as far as the Fairfield, the roads are being built, and then also the Waterline construction is the place, infrastructure is being put in place. So we're moving along pretty good on that one. Except for, if you got any remedy for that area, David, we'd sure like to have
There's a lot of
some.
shale that you can come down and buy off of them.
We're looking at, that's slow going. Once we get good weather, then we're ready to move.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Charlie.
You bet.
Next is the Roads and Transportation with Michael Lynn.
Good morning.
Good morning.
As Harley mentions, you should have our report in your packet. One thing I would like to mention that is an addition to the report this month is that we have officially received all 100% of our ARA funding. It's been progressively requested throughout as we got projects. It's kind of an extensive process to request the funds. There's a kind of a checklist of items we have to go through, but we have submitted all of those and received the funding. It is officially considered obligated within the federal highway system. If it wasn't obligated by sometime late June, early July, there was a threat to have it taken back or pulled back and redistributed. We are not in that situation, so I want to make that point. It is all received. Our last ARA project, which is what we're going to call NICUT South, is anticipated to be bid out within the next week. We're incorporating some waterline relocation plans within our construction plans, so we're working those last items out and anticipate getting that bid out very quickly. So I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Councilor Stone.
Up on the Star, I call it Star Highway, Star Road, Dry Creek project, John Goodicke property, south of, or north of the Little County, there's a bird house. He says when they put the tin horn in, they put it too close to the yard. It's created a washout. And his yard, the fence will haul it, keeps caving in. He said your inspector had been by at one time and said we were going back on that, but never did.
Is he part of that? I'm not familiar with that person. Is he part of those houses right there coming out of Kansas on the east side of the road?
No, he's 1 mile north.
Oh,
Just,
okay.
just at the intersection.
Okay, I'll have to look into it. I'm not familiar with it.
Okay.
I'll talk to the inspector and find out and let you know something.
Good. Was that his wife jumped the other day? She said, "Well, it's supposed to be back a year ago." I said, "Well, it takes them a while." But she's waiting.
Yes.
Michael, we didn't get any discretionary funds out of the stimulus dollars, did we? They're not discretionary.
Redistributed?
Yeah, redistributed.
That's part of the process I was speaking of. They're still trying to determine how much money is going to be redistributed. They've extended the deadline a couple of times, I think, to allow tribes to. They don't want to take any back, bottom line. But it looks like they're going to have to take some back. And the preliminary estimates they keep throwing around is between $4 and $5 million. That's going to be nationwide. We've submitted 2 projects for that. I don't really anticipate them being funded. especially with just 4 or 5 million. I think the original estimates were going to be closer to 20 to 30 million coming back, but the estimates now are so low. They do have all the projects that were submitted. They've got them ranked and prioritized. I don't know where we fall within that. They're kind of being closed mouth about it, but we should have an answer on those. I'm hoping within 45 days.
One other thing, and this is NCAI is starting this next week, and I know there's going to be some questions on large land-based tribes versus small land-based tribes. I guess if you would, I'd like to have you to write up a position paper on that and email it to me or fax it to all of the committee members. Just so when I intend to go, so I want to be prepared to answer some of the questions that those things are brought up. So if you can do that, I appreciate it.
Yeah, we can do that. We did learn last week that Federal Highways and Bureau of Indian Affairs are anticipated to unveil, I guess is the right word to use, their definition of what an IRR route is. And Harley, you know that's been a point of argument for several years now, and but they're officially going to take a position on what the definition of an IRR route is. It's supposed to be unveiled during the NCAI meeting, and then there's also an IRR program coordinating committee meeting being held at the same time in Rapid City. Okay. And they're going to be also meeting on that with Secretary Echo Hawk is supposed to be coming over there and meeting with the PCC as well.
So we will have people at that coordinating committee?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. One other question, Michael, if you'd do me a favor. There's a road, I think it's South 660 Road and Grove, the one I just submitted last week. I'd like to have the ODOT count or your count on that road as far as traffic.
Before or after construction?
Just send it to me.
Okay.
This is what I count is. Okay, I think that's all I have. But Councilor Snail had a question.
The Twin Oaks project, is it about ready to let out for bid, or?
It is. We are moving utilities, in the process of moving utilities on that. The electric company, Oklahoma Public Works, I'm not sure, NEO Electric, is acquiring their own easements. We were going to allow them to go within our easements that we acquired. They want to acquire their own. I think they're nearly complete on it, or they're down to the last few problems that they're trying to resolve. And we're in the process of moving utilities now. As soon as those are out of the way, it is ready to go.
Thank you.
Any more questions for Michael? And Michael, you're next on the agenda for public comments, and that's the standard procedure that Michael has on the agenda for public comments. Do I hear any public comments for Michael? Seeing none. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Next is Housing Services with David Sutherland.
Good morning.
Good morning, David.
I've got a few disclosures to make this morning. Mortgage assistance, a gentleman named Matt Merrill is a nephew of one of Housing Services employee Jason Ely. Jerome Wildcat's getting a low-rent apartment. He's a nephew of Housing Services employee Henry Birdtail. And Matthew Price is a Housing Services employee who's purchasing a Title VI home. And those are the disclosures for the month. We've got a board meeting at noon today over at the Housing Authority building. Don't really have anything other than that to report. If anybody has any questions?
Any questions for David? Okay, David. I'll make sure that you kind of hang around if we're going to be talking about some other stuff. Okay, next is Commerce with Anna Knight, and Steve Shea is here for Anna.
Good morning. You should have a copy of the Commerce report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions about it.
We have a copy of the report, which I think is very good, Shea, and I want to commend that department for staying on top of some of these people that's going into foreclosure. I know we've talked about it before, but a lot of people don't come to you until the month that it's going to go to court. So just encourage you to keep working with them. And I think we need to get this out in our community that there is some help here at the Cherokee Nation as far as counseling. Do this months before you go into foreclosure. So I do see some new foreclosures on the list, so hopefully at some point in time we can make some acquisition of these foreclosed homes, if they're worth it. I know you guys are the experts on taking a look at these homes, see if they are worth purchasing, so thank you for your report. Any questions for Shaq? No? Thank you, Shaq. Moving on to old business, I see none pending. And the new business, a resolution authorizing submission of a grant to the USDA for housing preservation, and I just had a new resolution cover sheet. You've got it on your desk, and what they're telling me, the only thing that's changed on this new resolution is a title only. It should read, a resolution authorizing the submission of a housing preservation grant application. I'm not sure what it said before. Okay, you can see the changes. Before it was a resolution authorizing the submission of a grant application to the USDA for housing preservation. So it looks to me like they've taken to the USDA out of that. So
Move for approval.
Second.
any discussion on the resolution? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Next on the agenda is some resolutions for housing. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Those are fairly lengthy. I guess I'll just go ahead and read them. If I hear no objections, we're going to go ahead and vote on those in toto. We had pretty good discussions on it yesterday. So what I'm going to do is go ask for a motion to approve.
So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and second. Now, is there any further discussions on these resolutions? We all have the resolutions in front of us. I'm not going to go ahead and spend the time on reading each one of those, so I'm going to go ahead and ask. Is there any more questions? Yes, Ms. Fisher.
Yeah, Harley, just explain to me real quick on the first one. Let's just take the first one, number 2.
Okay.
On page 9, it says provide, it was 30, now it's down to 20, new construction building packages.
Marvin, you want to come up and answer these?
Sure.
What is that?
What page you on, Joe?
9.
You got the page number there, Marvin?
Yeah, I know what the discussion is. If the specific question is related as to why it's going from 30 to 20, it's because the program thinks that that's how many that they can actually build with the money. Most likely in that particular case, since it's been since 2005, those early numbers were overestimates, and as they've gone to actually building them, the costs have gone up.
Well, no, I want to know what a new construction building package is.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. It's what is often referred to as a self-help houses. It's sometimes referred to as the panel housing. But it's that program, the one that Charlie Soap's Community Services does, the self-help houses.
So these are the skip homes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Baker has a question. Are you through, Jody? No. Okay, Mr. Baker.
$96,710 per house. And and the people have a mortgage of $50,000? Is that what I'm understanding?
I think that sounds correct. The program can be probably more specific than I can, but I think that's the case.
So the other 46,000, what makes up that?
The amount that's mortgaged, I believe, is essentially the building materials. The rest of the amount is for like the labor and stuff like that, all the other costs associated with building the house, because community services is building it to the dried-in stage. So all of those costs, I believe, are not part of the payback as far as the labor to do that. And the program can correct me or say, or that have more detail on what that consists of. But that's in general, I think, what it consists of.
So, okay, so it's costing us $96,000. So that's what we're charging to it, right?
That would be correct.
And we're doing the mortgage for $50,000.
That's correct.
And so if they got the $15,000 mortgage assistance, then that's still $30,000 more of what we're putting into their houses. Is
That's correct. We often refer to it as the amount of subsidy that someone's actually getting. As you're pointing out, the self-help houses are actually the difference between what they pay back and what it actually costs is what we would call the subsidy. In that case, 40 plus thousand, compared to a mortgage assistance where their subsidy is the 15,000. In other words, they're getting a lot more subsidy under the self-help construction than they would under the mortgage assistance program.
I'm just a little confused by it because I'm not so sure that those houses couldn't be contracted for $96,000 total, materials and labor.
I believe the cost of construction is actually, for the current houses, are actually more than that. I think we're now into the $120,000 cost. So, but
that's a house with a garage and a bunch of other stuff, and these houses don't have garages.
The houses from the 2005, are they substantially different than the 120,000? Yeah. The costs are going up considerably, up above 100,000 now.
Well, in the private world, materials have come down and labor has come down. People are hungry and they're actually bidding things cheaper right now. So I'm a little miffed, but.
I believe that's certainly being looked at, the comparison between, how much it costs to build houses, including the indirect cost and all of those things, compared to, as you're suggesting, bidding it out. That is under consideration right now, the comparison.
Okay, and I think Councilor Baker makes a good point, Marvin, and we would like to see those figures.
Okay.
On what it's costing us. You're saying $96,000. We'd like to see what a contractor or 2 or 3 contractors could build those houses for, with us furnishing the panels to build them. So that would be a good comparison.
Okay.
Councilor Thornton has a question.
Yeah. On the 96,000, I'd like to know how many Cherokees that were working in that program. And that
Okay.
Cherokees work.
Okay. I think in general, just that they can get you more specific information. By and large, those would be tribal employees, and by and large, almost all of those would be Cherokee citizens, I think. But I think that they'll get you some more specific information.
How many of them put to work?
Okay.
I think Councilor Thornton made a good point. We're employing Cherokees, and that's ultimately our goal here. So. Yeah. That's worth us some dollars to me also too. So, okay. Any more questions for Mr. Jones? Ms. Fishing on
this 05 Indian Housing Plan, I'll tell you what I'd like, Marvin, if you could get it for me, please, maybe get with Doug. I want to see what the original IHP plan was that was submitted to us, and then I would like to see the final, because I want to see how close we are on target to the original you submitted to actually what we spent the dollars on.
Okay. Could I make a suggestion? The best comparison would be the second one we submitted. The first one would have been based on an estimated allocation, and then the second one is when we had the final allocation. That becomes a real best comparison, from what was initially submitted to later, if that would be okay.
Yeah, go ahead and give me the first one, give me the second one, because I
Okay.
realize now we need to follow the budget, not the plan. Because every year, every month, it seems like we're getting mods through.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
And if I could
Yeah,
point out, what will really make it good from our discussion yesterday is the budget will, in fact, be the Indian Housing Plan, and there'll be a lot more joined together under this new process. Yep. Could I mention something that Doug pointed out after the meeting yesterday, and I said, I wish you would have brought it up, because I had it in my notes and I just simply didn't go through it yesterday. I wanted to point out when we were talking about the amount of money that we're anticipating to be unallocated, unbudgeted in 2011, that in fact what we're assuming is the 2009 Indian Housing Plan money will be all expended. We know that it won't be, and so there will be additional money that will be unspent from that 2009 Indian Housing Plan that will be carried over. Not sure how much that'll be, but just I had planned to mention that. So we're saying 5.5 million. It'll be 5.5 million plus some additional money. One other point is that didn't include the stimulus money. The stimulus money is totally separate from this process.
Well, I want to thank all the committee members for coming to the meeting yesterday. I think it was helpful to get an explanation and to help us more understand how this housing plan is going to work. And it's, I think in the long run, we're going to see it's better. It's going to be better because it'll be budgeted every year. The total amount of dollars will be budgeted every year. It helps to track those funds, as far as I'm concerned now. Some other people may have different opinions of it. It always felt like it was easy to track for me. One more, Marlon.
You asked a question yesterday about how much out of the 2008 Indian Housing Plan, when I indicated it was an exception as to how much was really unearmarked that were really changing. All the rest of the 05, 06, 07, and all of the rest of the 08 is simply changes that you've already made through the appropriation law, and now we're just conforming the Indian Housing Plan to the appropriation, except with the exception of the what I called 600,000 yesterday in response to your saying how much of it is truly unearmarked that we're changing the use for. It's actually 654,000. So in response to your question yesterday.
Got a question for Ms. Jordan.
Well, since we're doing all the housing plans together, I was just going to point out to the committee that in the 05 housing plan, and this is tracking some of the things that have already been said, we were going to do housing packages, 20 housing packages at $96,710. Then we go to the 06 housing plan, we're going to do 17 building packages, and now we're up to 120,000. And on both levels, you can buy a pretty good completed house for $96,000 or certainly for $120,000. Then we go over to the 07 housing plan. Now we're switching from building houses. We're going to buy 265 sites for $4.1 million. Do we have people for those 265 sites? And that's just the land that's under the house. Now, there's no money in this plan for building houses. I'm assuming the 14 or the 20 and the 17 we've got sites for. But we're going to invest $4.1 million in 265 sites using 08 money, but there's no money that year to build any houses. Folks, is this making sense to you all?
Not at all.
And I know just sitting here talking to Mr. Crittenden, we're just 3 sites that I know of, we're at almost 1,000 acres that we've already bought. I didn't get the information that I requested, but I know of 3 large land purchases that puts us at about 1,000 acres, which if we was giving everybody 5 acres apiece, that's 200 housing sites, but we're only going to build 37 houses. And I bet all of them are not being built on that 1,000 acres. And now we're going to turn around and we're going to buy 265 more sites at an estimated 5 acres per site and spend $4.1 million. So we're going to have 160 sites apparently left over from what land I know we've bought, and we may have bought more. And we're going to have 265 more sites. So that puts us at 425 sites now, but no money to build houses on it. It seems to me like we need to look at these housing plans really, really close. I know what today is just to wrap them all into one budget. But we need to sit down and look at what we're doing. We're going to have 465 sites if we let this go through. But you're only going to put about 37 houses on it.
If in fact that you were trying to tie it to the self-help houses and that was the only source of construction funds, actually the ideal is that there's a bunch of other sources of funding, including the ideal that our mortgage assistance, in which we essentially put 233 people receive home ownership. Most all of those currently are acquisition of existing houses, but part of the ideal is that people would prefer and engage in new construction if they actually had land. And so the ideal is to purchase land so that those that may want to use mortgage assistance for new construction can have land available in the areas where that they currently live. There's some other funding sources that were currently that would be available, which is the USDA 502 program, which is for low-income people, the Section 184 program, as well as the Veterans Administration, as well as a private finances. So it's not tied necessarily to the other construction resources included in the Indian Housing Plan, and it's not intended to. There's not a one-for-one match that somehow that this purchase of land is tied to it being subsidized, or the funding for the new construction is also contained in the Indian Housing Plan.
I have more questions. Can you tell us from past experience on mortgage assistance how many of those people didn't have land to either build a house or already had identified a pre-existing house to buy with that mortgage assistance money?
I don't know. We've been checking on that, and there's been a handful. What Commerce did a few months ago was inquire of people that were approved for mortgage assistance, and found out that a good proportion of people who, if they had a chance, would like new construction. As a matter of fact, a greater proportion than we thought would accept new construction on tribally owned lands. So that's the information we have. How that translates into actual, stuff, of course, we don't have that yet.
And do we plan to sell these sites to these individuals that want new construction, or do we plan to keep this in the tribe's name and give them a lease?
It would be in the tribe's name with the lease.
And have those people that you say you've identified, that handful, been told that they will never own the land that's below that house?
That's correct, yes.
And this handful would be, I have 5 fingers on a hand, is that what we're talking about?
No. Shay, do you recall percentages?
informally surveyed approximately 200 mortgage assistance clients, self-sufficiency clients, so people who have applied for mortgage assistance and are working with a credit coach to get to a point where they can obtain non-predatory financing. Again, it was a very informal survey, just over the phone. We did explain to them, or we asked them, number one, would you ever be interested in constructing a home if that was possible? Overwhelmingly, the answer was yes. And then the second question was, if you could construct a home on land that was owned by the Cherokee Nation, you would just have a leasehold to the property, would you still be interested in constructing a home? And again, more people than we thought responded that yes, they would. And it's been so long since we did that, I'm wanting to say maybe about 50% responded that yes, they would be interested.
And they were interested in never owning the land that was below the house, even though they're going to be paying a regular mortgage payment.
Right, and let me just say, again, it was a very informal survey, so did we sit down with the client and fully explain what a leasehold mortgage is? No, but we did explain to them you would never own the land that the home is sitting on. You would own the home, but you would not own the land. Now, over the phone, do people fully grasp what that means and the repercussions of that? Maybe, maybe not, but again, it was just an informal kind of to kind of get an idea.
I would challenge that if we sit down and explain to these people that if they go to try to sell their home, they're going to have a problem selling a home where you don't own the land. I think if we sit down and explain that to people, you're going to find that there's very few that are going to want a home with that situation where they've made a real, true mortgage payment on it. And I think you 17 sitting here know what I'm talking about, because I wonder how many of you all would want to pay on a home for 30 years and not be able to utilize the equity in the home or sell the home because you don't own the land beneath it.
Okay, well, I think we've had some pretty good discussion. I've got Councilor Snell, Councilor Baker, and Councilor Fishing Hawk on the list to speak. And I think maybe we're getting off the subject of Ford's rolling these 5, 6, 7, and 8 housing plans up, and maybe we need to have another housing meeting. And I'd certainly be willing to call another meeting to get more in discussion about it. But I think we need to go ahead and look at what we've got on the agenda today. But I'm going to allow Snail, Baker, and Fishing Hawk to make a comment, and then I'll ask the question.
My question was exactly what she asked about the property. Build a house, who owned the property?
Okay. Councilor Baker.
Yeah, and I realize there's been some talk about Indian country and getting mortgages and stuff, but folks, I'm telling you, the 184, the VA, and private mortgage companies are going to be extremely reluctant to loan folks money to build land that they're never going to own, that they're not going to get a mortgage on the land. It narrows down the if they have to take it back, it narrows down the folks that can even bid on it. It knocks out all investors. It knocks out everything. And I just think we're going down a road that's unrealistic. And I mean, we're buying up the land, but that's not putting roofs over folks' heads.
You want to respond?
Yeah, there's been thousands of loans executed in Indian country or reservations.
They're not a reservation.
Indian land, Indian country, whether it's trust restricted or any other land.
How many in the Cherokee Nation?
We don't.
How many? How many in the Cherokee Nation?
Well, there's a bunch of mutual help houses, but
that's different.
The reason is because the council wouldn't allow, when the self-help program first began, we had a number of them, I can tell you the names of them, who wanted to live on tribal land, understood completely, and didn't want the land to be alienated because they didn't trust their kids, when they passed away and they built a self-help house. And I'm not saying it's a great number because I don't know that, but we had people who wanted to do that, came before the council, and the council wouldn't allow those families to live on tribal land. So now we're purchasing land with Nahosta with the intent of putting it into Indian country. As for the lenders, whether they will do it, if you were a lender and the federal government guaranteed you 100% in case it was defaulted upon, would you loan the money? Probably. There's lender, because that's what the 184 program is intended to. It takes into account all of those problems. Now, that you're exactly right. It's not here yet. And the intent is, how many of those people would participate in that situation. There won't be any question that we'll have lenders. We're having lenders right now wanting to get 100% guarantee on their money, loan the money, and if they default it, then the federal government under Section 184 will turn around and give the lender their money that they loaned, and it's the federal government that loses. The Section 502 USDA program is the federal government loaning the money for the express intent of getting housing, including in Indian country. So it won't be a problem as far as getting lenders. I do acknowledge that the number of people, Cherokee citizens, that would follow through and be interested, that is something that we don't know how many there are. I do acknowledge that.
Do you have any more, Mr. Becker?
No, that's good.
Council Fishing Hawk, and then we need to move on.
Marvin, I think these are the families that you're talking about are like I'm having in my county right now, cluster sites that now are asking for deeds, and we're not giving them deeds, we're giving them proclamations. And for an instance would be Cherry Tree. Is that what you're talking about? Because I've been having to tell these people, I'm sorry, you don't get a deed.
Yeah, no, these are other people that know very well about, the Cherry Tree. But you're right, I think that back then when those were constructed, I'm not sure that people were fully informed, as, to the intent that was in fact Indian land and was projected to remain that always, so I'm not sure how good the communication was.
Okay, my last question is, how many of these people are in the pipeline right now that you all see doing this for? And how soon will it be done? I'm curious.
That's
a shady question, I'm not sure.
It's probably a question for someone other than me, but I'll try to answer it. There's been people working on the codes and the laws and those things necessary to bring to the tribal council in order to establish, the terms of the leasing and the heirship rights to the property and all of those sorts of things. And it's been quite a lengthy process, and it's not here yet. I think the person that you could ask that to would be Linda Donaldson. And she's been kind of developing those, but they would in fact have to come before tribal council eventually.
I don't think you got understood my question, and like I said, I think it was more for Shay. I'm wanting to know how many of these people are ready, that you all explained this to, are ready to build a house here, take out a loan on land they won't own, and how long is this in coming?
As far as the number of people who are mortgage ready right now, we don't have anybody in our pipeline. There's around 500 families in the pipeline who are working with a credit coach, none of whom are mortgage ready right now. Honestly, I'm sorry?
You said 500 families?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Honestly, I don't know how many of those families, where they're at in the pipeline, if they're near ready. Most of our clients are long-term, which means it could be up to 2 years, between 6 months and 2 years before they're ready to get a non-predatory mortgage. Honestly, I can't answer your question. I can't give you good numbers about how many of those would be ready in the next 6 months and would still be willing to take out a mortgage on land that they
Can y'all answer the second part about how long it is before we have this program ready to go for these people?
I can't answer that question.
That's the question I was trying to answer. That I think ask Linda that. A good test case will be the Fairfield side. because, that's not ready not right now because, we don't have the utilities there. As soon as that's ready and those sites are available, then somebody with eligible for mortgage assistance that wants to live in that area then and wants new construction, then we'll start to see
Okay,
that.
thank you.
Okay, well, I think we've had probably discussions that maybe we should have had yesterday, so this resolution, or these resolutions, are about rolling up to 5, 6, 7, and 08 housing plan. I had a motion to approve it and a second, so I'm going to ask for a vote on it. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Aye.
I believe the yeas have it.
Note me down as an aye, though.
Thank you.
And aye.
Councilor Baker, Councilor Jordan, Fishing Hawk, Councilor Creighton. Thank you. I think we had a good discussion on it. And who else?
Kurt. Get 1 or 2 more, it might not pass.
Okay, we're going to move on now to item 6, and I want to talk just a little bit more about the housing plan. I think I've heard some good discussion about it today and some concerns about, how we're doing the housing plans, and maybe what we need to do is sit down and have another special meeting and go over it and put enough time into that meeting to really discuss the time. And we want to take a look at that in the near future, Marvin, and actually do that. So,
Yeah, let me know when and where and who else you might want to be involved in the discussion, including if you want the chief here. I know that he would be involved if you need for him to be.
okay, we'll certainly take that. We're going to move on to item number 6, and due to the time on this thing, I know Ms. Fishing Hawk has brought this up, but I would be willing to come in a little early on the 24th to further discuss this if that gives them enough time, Judge. I think what we would do is probably just recess this and take it up on the 24th. I think our first meeting on the 24th is at what time? 1. At 1. Maybe schedule a meeting at 12 that day, and we'll recess until the 24th. What it is, we've had some questions, and just to let the administration know that we're looking at the funding part in water and sanitation, and also funding in part for the housing accessibility program. So it'll give you a little time to get some numbers and figures together. So we'll go ahead and recess this over to June the 24th at 12 o'clock. So do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Move to recess.
Sorry, recess. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Thank you.